It's getting to be the year of the secret dump of emails and letters. WikiLeaks has just unloaded about another 1,000. We understand they've got 10,000 or more waiting about Hillary Clinton. But, you know, some years ago, Clarence Thomas was up for nomination. And I interviewed Arlen Specter, I think, who was one of the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee. And we asked the audience to call in their feeling. Well, it was a very hot issue, and there were 400,000 telephone calls that hit the switchboard in D.C. and shut it down. So what does the Washington Post say? Well, it was just, quote, Pat Robertson's followers who were poor, uneducated, and easy to command. Yeah, and people called them on that, and they said, well, we all know that's true. These people don't know anything. Well, that scorn is still there among the elites, and it's coming out in these emails. They think that the general public are a bunch of dummies. And because you're not for the liberal globalist agenda of making socialism popular in America, they are a basket of deplorables. Hillary has said it, and she also said that they were racist, homophobic, whatever those other names are. But it followed out one person that her husband, not her, well, I guess Obama had put in office, the Civil Rights Commission, who said exactly the same thing on another case. He quoted directly from it. And you find this stuff coming up over and over again, the scorn of these people for anybody who believes in God, believes in the Bible, believes in constitutional government, believes in the separation of powers and all the things we think are important. Now, that's number one. Number two, I have learned, and I have to have one of our guys check this, but I think it's true, that this Merrick Garland they put up for the Supreme Court, you know, and everybody said, oh, what a wonderful jurist he was. Turns out that in one of his decisions, he had said the Second Amendment, which has to do with guns, dealt with, you know, the Constitution says a well-ordered militia is important to da-da-da-da-da, and then the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be abridged. All right, he says the Second Amendment only applies to the militias, doesn't apply to individual ownership of guns. Now, if he went on the court, there would then be a 5-4 majority in favor of canceling the right of the people to have guns. And that was what was going on. It was a sneak attack. But why do these guys want to take your guns away? You know, I don't want to go killing people. Who wants to go shooting people? But who wants to take your guns away? Dictators. Invariably, before a dictator comes in and seizes power from the people, he makes sure they are disarmed. And if you are disarmed, then you can't fight against the army that the dictator puts in place. So the left wants to disarm you. I mean, it's incredible, but this stuff's going on. So now you've got this vicious attack going on against Donald Trump. The Boston Globe is in the tank against him. The New York Times is unbelievable. They have given up all virtue or all pretense of journalistic balance. The Washington Post, who I thought Jeff Bezos paid $250 million to buy it, I thought that, hey, he'll be fairly balanced. He likes to sell books and sell toys and sell whatever else he sells. Instead of that, it is the same old left-wing crowd of bigots that run the Washington Post. And they're absolutely, frantically against Trump. Why? Well, if this guy, he's taken a lot of abuse, but it's coming hard and fast, and so it's going to be interesting. And I'll tell you later on how I think he's going to win, by the way. I think everybody says it's not the case, but I've got a plan. Terry?
Well, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, WikiLeaks is still releasing more emails from inside the Clinton campaign. They show some revealing comments about conservative Catholicism and evangelicals. Caitlin Burke has more on the chaos of this election season.
Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump is taking aim at leadership within his own party, including House Speaker Paul Ryan, who said Monday he won't campaign with Trump anymore.
I wouldn't want to be in a foxhole with a lot of these people, by the way, including Ryan.
Trump also lashed out on social media, sending out a barrage of tweets about the weak and ineffective top-ranking Republicans who don't support him. He then declared that, quote, the shackles have been taken off, liberating him to fight for America the way he wants to. This after many from his party have withdrawn their support in the wake of the release of the vulgar video from 2005. Even as Trump wages war against his own party, he continues to battle Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton. This week, his campaign releasing a new television ad.
Hillary Clinton failed every single time as Secretary of State.
Clinton, meanwhile, dealing with a new WikiLeaks release of over 1,000 emails from her campaign. Some of them seeming to show a close relationship with the news media, including a New York Times reporter giving the Clinton camp veto power over statements she'd made before including them in a story. Other emails showed Clinton's team mocking evangelicals and conservative Catholics. Her campaign communications director writing that many powerful conservatives are Catholic because they think it's, quote, the most socially acceptable, politically conservative religion. Their rich friends wouldn't understand if they became evangelicals, she added. Clinton's campaign team responded to the latest leaks by saying that they're simply an attempt by Russia to sway the election.
The Russian interference in this election should be of utmost concern to all Americans.
On the campaign trail, Clinton showed up on stage with Al Gore in an attempt to win over some millennial support by talking about his major issue and one that's important to many of them, climate change.
I'm running against a guy who denies science, denies climate change, says it's a hoax created by the Chinese.
Clinton has a lead in the polls and is now looking beyond the White House and trying to help Democrats take back the Senate as well. But Trump's not backing down and is sure to hit Clinton hard as this race enters its final stretch. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, you know, if the Republicans would stop wringing their hands and talking about some 11-year-old locker room discussion, they have an issue in the Affordable Care Act. The President of the United States went before the American people and he said, if you like your plan, you can keep it. It was a lie. If you like your doctor, you can keep it. That was a lie. If you think you're paying too much now, we're going to lower the cost. That was a lie. I mean, flat out lie by the President of the United States. And he sold that thing, and now the cost of the affordable care for people has gone up 30%, 40, 50, 60% in some cases. And many, many of the exchanges are going broke because the plan doesn't work. It is forcing the plan to pay for older people, but does not include the younger ones because it's not a good deal for the young participants. So the thing is a disaster. It is going to collapse probably in the next year. And why the Republicans, there wasn't one Republican who voted for the Affordable Care Act, not one single Republican. It was strictly a Democrat deal in the House and the Senate. If they want to run on an issue that'll be hot button in the next few weeks, that's it. Instead of talking about some 11-year-old email with locker room banter between a couple of guys. I mean, this is crazy. But that's what's being elevated. But I tell you, WikiLeaks, it's coming out more and more and more. But it shows that elite mentality back to the Washington Post, poor, uneducated, and easy to command. And by the way, to the Washington Post, in case you think I'm uneducated, I've got 10 college degrees, including a doctorate from Yale. So I really do know what I'm talking about. Well, in other news, one of the growing threats the United States will face in the years ahead is Russia. Russia is now expanding its influence in the Middle East. They weren't out there. They were thrown out of Egypt a long time ago. We had control of the Middle East. And then through the Obama administration, we just surrendered it. And they're now building a naval base in Syria. Ephraim Graham has that story.
Pat, it is just one of the latest moves by Russia, as some military analysts believe it is taking advantage of the American presidential election to strengthen its position in Syria. Chris Mitchell shows us how this situation also threatens the relationship between Russia and the U.S.
Global foreign policy experts believe perceived American weakness and inaction in the Middle East, combined with a lame duck presidency, open the door for Russia to gain a powerful foothold in the region.
They're going for absolute victory, and they're trying to effectively bomb eastern Aleppo into surrender. The Russians now figure, well, it's a good time to really achieve as much as possible in the last dying months of the Obama presidency, when there will almost certainly be very little pushback from the Americans.
As the only major city where rebels maintain a stronghold, Aleppo faces constant attack from Syrian and Russian troops.
The Russians have noticed there was a vacuum in the Middle East, and they're doing their level best to themselves fill that vacuum, and by so doing advance Russia's strategic interests.
Bombing of civilian sites, including hospitals, has prompted Washington to cut off talks with Russia about a ceasefire.
Russia and the Syrian regime have chosen to pursue a military course inconsistent with the cessation of hostilities.
Russia stepped in to help Syria's president stay in power about a year ago. That put it at odds with the U.S. and Western powers.
And that's what the Russians are doing, pouring everything they can possibly muster in order to help Assad. By contrast, the American agenda in both Syria and in Iraq has been extremely confused from the outset.
The situation got worse when Russia admitted deploying a missile defense system in Syria.
It's not quite clear why the deployment of the S-300 has worried our Western colleagues.
Analyst Jonathan Spire says this action is clearly intended to deter the U.S. because rebel groups have no planes or ballistic missiles.
So when you put an S-300 into Western Syria, what you're saying is to the Americans or anybody else, well, if you were thinking of putting planes up and acting against our allies, against the regime forces, we're ready for that, and that's going to, have consequences potentially.
For Israel, which shares a border with Syria, it's a big concern. The S-300 complicates Israel's ability to strike Iranian weapons convoys making their way across Syria to Hezbollah in Lebanon. In the meantime, what's good for the Russians hasn't been good for the Syrian civilians.
As we are Syrian, we can't bear anymore to see children, they are killed in front of us and keep silence. United Nations is useless. They are killer, they are murderer, they are liar.
Spire says since the Cold War, the U.S. was like the sheriff in the region, maintaining a degree of order. Now that that's gone, there's a different reality.
When the Americans did not pursue their stated interests in Syria, then you end up with a situation of a very ruthless power, Russia, coming in, basically terrorizing a civilian population into submission before the eyes of the world.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Yet another tense situation, Pat.
Well, it's extremely tense, but we've invited them in. They had no role in the Middle East whatsoever. They were thrown out by the Egyptians, and it was a clear shot for America to take over, but Obama did not move. He would not move. Now, there were some rebel groups, and we weren't sure which ones to defend, but nevertheless, the Alawites in Syria represent about 10 to 15% of the total population, and that's it. They were the same Ba'ath party that Saddam Hussein had in Iraq. They were the same political persuasion. And the Assad father and son were part of that Alawite group. Now, Syria is primarily Sunni Muslim, and here this minority is running them. Now, we said, at least our president said very boldly, I'm drawing a line in the sand. If he uses chemical weapons, we must act. So they had indisputable evidence that Assad was using chemical mustard, maybe mustard gas at a minimum, against his people, and we did nothing. And we continued to do nothing. And as a result, there's a vacuum. And, the Bible, the scientists tell you nature abhors a vacuum. So there was a vacuum created by the United States, and the Russians moved into it. You don't blame them, they did it. Putin is an opportunist. But one thing for sure is for Hillary Clinton, who once talked about Jennifer Flowers being the fruit of a vast right-wing conspiracy. You remember that? Now, the WikiLeaks are the result of a vast Russian conspiracy to win the election and take it away from her. The vast right-wing, and now it's a vast left-wing conspiracy. But whatever it is, they're conspiracies against the Clintons. Ephraim.
Pat, 9,000 people are being evacuated along the Tar River in Greenville, North Carolina today as the flood threat from Hurricane Matthew continues to unfold. Governor Pat McCrory is urging residents to leave in order to prevent more deaths as the Tar River swells with floodwaters. The storm has claimed at least 34 lives in the U.S., with more than half of them in North Carolina. While some are evacuating, Operation Blessing is hard at work, helping residents who've lost nearly everything.
I knew by then that the water had risen up to like the second step, I believe, at least, and tried to get home every way that I went. I mean, I posted a little funny thing on Facebook, let's see how many detours I have on my way home. And I did try to keep track of detours and lights that were out, and then it was a matter of, it just really doesn't even matter, I'm not going to get there. For Operation Blessing to be here, you say the word blessing, but that doesn't really touch what it is.
Hurricane Matthew has damaged or destroyed more than 1 million buildings, forced businesses from Florida to North Carolina to close, and put thousands out of work temporarily. Goldman Sachs estimates the storm caused $10 billion in damage overall. Great to see Operation Blessing at work, Pat.
We're doing it. I tell you, our dear friends in North Carolina are suffering. I could not believe that Tar River and other rivers there have overflowed the way they have, and the flooding continues. It doesn't diminish. Same thing in our part of the Virginia. There's terrible flooding, and it just goes on and on and on. Closing of schools and roads being closed, and the waters were just so pervasive, and 40 inches, 50 inches, whatever it was, it fell during this period of time. And the storm systems weren't set up to handle it. Then on top of that, we get tidal flooding here. And I guess the same thing in North Carolina. But they are really suffering. So Operation Blessing is down there working. We're bringing hot meals, bringing other types of material they need to help rebuild their homes. It's still too early for people that are flooded out to do anything except just survive, and we're there to help them. If you want to help Operation Blessing, the number is easy to remember. It's 1-800-700-7000, and that's what you need to do. So now's the time to help. Well, Ephraim, what's next?
Pat, some people are calling it a miracle moment after Tim Tebow prayed for a sick fan at a baseball game Tuesday night, and he recovered. Tebow was signing autographs after his first minor league game when a fan suddenly hit the ground and started convulsing. The former NFL quarterback sprang into action and laid his hands on the man, prayed for his healing, and comforted him until paramedics arrived. The violent seizure reportedly stopped moments after Tebow prayed for him. Tebow later told reporters he did it because at the end of the day, only one thing matters.
You remember people are important, and being what you can do for people and loving people, and yeah, baseball is awesome. It's something that I'm so excited that I get a chance to pursue. But what's important is lives matter, people matter, and this young man, he mattered.
That 30-year-old man was taken to the emergency room. He was later released from the hospital and is at home, where he says he's doing fine. Gotta love Tim Tebow. Pat?
Is he going to be up for canonization, Saint Tim? I can see it coming.
I think there'd be those who'd vote with you on that one.
But his first time at bat, he hit a 400 home run, 405 yards or whatever. I mean, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, God says, I like him.
Hey, you don't mind if I do a little bragging, do you?
Oh, I don't.
I have many grandchildren. I have 14. I have many now great-grandchildren. And I just got a picture of one of them, the prettiest little child, and you don't mind if I show you?
Not a bit, I'd like to see.
This is little Annabelle, and she's, give me a close-up on her. Get in closer on her. Isn't she pretty?
She is beautiful.
Isn't she a beautiful little thing?
She the one that had frosting all over her face after your birthday cake?
It's possible. No, I don't know. She very possible. But anyway, but isn't she beautiful?
Great. Well, she's adorable.
And we've got set of twins coming and another.
I know.
So I'll have 10 great-grandchildren, and before long they will grow up and I will have great-great-grandchildren.
Wow, the blessing of the Lord continues. Hey, you have piqued my interest, whetted my appetite. You said that you still believe that in the end Donald Trump will win. Based on what? I mean...
All right, here's the deal. Black people, they voted overwhelmingly for Barack Obama, right?
Yeah, well, sure.
Huge. They don't have a thing for Hillary. they're not going to come out like they did for Barack Obama. They're not. She's just not going to mobilize them because they haven't got all that good a deal. And Trump is saying to them, look, if you think you got it so good, go ahead and vote for it. But the inner cities are still in chaos. They're still
in chaos, worse than ever.
Worse than ever. So how can they say their lives are improved? So they're going to be surprisingly voting for Trump, and it's going to surprise everybody. Second, millennials. Where are they going? Well, they're getting turned off by all this rhetoric, and they're going to say, we're going third party or we're going to sit at home. I mean, they don't like either one of them. They don't like Trump. They don't like Hillary. They don't, stay away. So I think there's going to be a huge defection in that group. They're not going to be voting. So that's going to take away some of the people. They may have spoken on polls, but they're not going to turn out at the ballot box. Okay. The next, labor unions. This has been the hardcore of the Democrat Party. But Obama has stiffed the labor unions in that Keystone XL pipeline case in extraordinary. The steel workers said, look, there are a lot of jobs for us. And Obama said, we don't care about the jobs. We want to placate a rich environmentalist, and we're going to play to the environmentalist regardless of what you want. And this goes all the way through. And you add to that the coal miners in Ohio and Pennsylvania and West Virginia, where Obama has had a war against coal. And you've got all those groups that were the pillars of the Democrat coalition. A lot of them are going to be weaker, and it's going to surprise everybody, whereas at the same time, Trump is reaching out to the laboring people. He's reaching out to the black people. He's not reaching out so much to the young, but maybe he's sounding a message to the young. But he's also bringing to his coalition people who have not been particularly Democrat or Republican, and the fact that he's attacking the leadership of the Republican Party at this point is going to say to people, hey, he's an independent, he's standing true, and we're going to go for him, so he's going to pick up a whole lot of independents. And when the day comes, mark my word, he's going to surprise the daylights. And I'm so sick now of seeing Fox with all their polls and all their graphs and all the things showing the Electoral College and the votes of Florida just went into the Hillary's column. And so just wait a minute and watch what's going to happen, and he will win the election.
Well, maybe this time the people will be heard. And, you know, it's very... How do you trust polls anymore? I mean, everything's so skewed behind the scenes, you don't even know what to think.
It's a tiny, tiny fraction, but the thing of it, these WikiLeaks things will be erosive. I mean, they're corrosive to Hillary's campaign because it's showing this utter disregard for the common people. She is very rich. She and her husband have amassed a $200 million personal fortune. They have about $2 billion in that campaign. They have allied themselves with dictators all over the world with that Clinton Foundation. They've gotten enormous amounts of money, and it has been pay for play. And there's no doubt about it. And it's sooner or later, the American people are going to wake up. You'll watch what happens. You heard it here, and if I'm wrong, I will not show up for a day. And I will put on sackcloth.
And we'll hold his feet to the fire on that, I just want to say.
I will put on sackcloth and ashes and apologize. All right, what else you got?